are on page 21. When we're finished mentioning the incense at great length, first we started with the sacrifices and then the daily incense. Now the Arizal, the great Ari, the greatest Kabbalist that ever lived, said we should conclude with these 3 verses from Psalms, and each of these 3 verses we say 3 times to strengthen it. These 3 verses are the ending of their respective psalm. The first verse is the end of Psalm 46. It's actually mentioned twice in the psalm, in the middle of the psalm, and then it concludes the psalm with that psalm with this verse. And the second verse is the conclusion of Psalm 84, and the third verse is the conclusion of Psalm 20. Very powerful verses. And then he concludes with a verse from the book of Malachi, the final and last prophet from the era of prophecy. So let's learn, today we're going to learn these verses, and we say these verses different times. We also say it before the evening service, at the end of the V'urachum, also before the Shabbos and the Yom Tov evening service. So these are very, very powerful verses, and let's familiarize ourselves with these verses. It's so powerful, we say each one of them 3 times. And here we're saying it at the opening of our davening, the conclusion of the incense. So first, the first verse. Hashem Tzevakot, the Lord of hosts. God is the host, the Lord of all the hosts, meaning all the angels and all the created sentient beings. Hashem is the Lord of the hosts. His army is like. So Hashem is the God of Tzevakot. Imanu, He's with us. Miskavlan, He is our stronghold. Educator Yaakov, the God of Jacob, is our stronghold, Selah forever. So the rabbis say that nobody called Hashem by the name of Tzevakot. In the Torah, in the 5 books of Moshe, we don't find God is referred to as Tzevakot. We know that God has different names. Of course, there's Hashem, Yud-Kei Vav-Kei, that's Hashem's personal name. Then you have Elokim, Kel, Elokah, Shakai, Adnai. These are all names that are in the Torah. But the name that Hashem should be referred to as Tzevakot, the God is the God of the Lord of hosts, we don't find it in the 5 books of Moshe. Only in the Tanakh. The first one that we find it is Chana. When Chana pleaded to have a son, Shmuel. And she said, she turned to Hashem, you have so many hosts, you have a multitude of servants, of angels, and so many beings. Can't He give me one son? Can't he give me one child? And she was the first one to use it, and her son, Shmuel, Hanavi, used it many times, and since then we find many times in the Tanakh, Hashem is called Tzevakot, especially the later prophets. So much so, there's an argument in the Talmud whether it's one of Hashem's names. Rabbi Yossi says, since we don't find His name in the 5 books of Moshe, not once, therefore it's not a name of Hashem. It's like many of the other titles we use refers to Hashem, but it's not one of the names of Hashem. Like we call Hashem the merciful one. Hashem is kind, merciful. That doesn't make it a name of Hashem. So Hashem rides His host, doesn't make it a name. But the rabbis disagree, and the rabbis say it is one of Hashem's names. We do find the word Tzevakot, we do find in the Torah. The Jewish people, when they left Egypt, they're called Tzivos Hashem. They left, all the Tzivos Hashem, the army of Hashem left Egypt. The first time the Jewish people referred to as the army of Hashem. Tzevakot means army. But again, it refers to the Jewish people. The Jewish people were called the army of Hashem. But not Hashem was called Tzevakot. Here it says Hashem Tzevakot. So what's the argument between the rabbis and Rabbi Yossi? The law follows the rabbis. It's one of the 7 names. Can't be erased. Tzevakot is considered Hashem's name. What's the argument? And why wasn't it mentioned in the Torah? Why is it only mentioned in the prophets? So first you have to understand, what does a name mean? When Hashem appointed Moshe to redeem the Jewish people, he asked Hashem, what should I tell the Jewish people? They asked me, what's your name? So the rabbis say that Hashem answered that Hashem, Lefi Maisei Ani Nikra, Hashem's name refers to the way Hashem is expressing Himself, different expressions of Hashem. Meaning, Hashem Himself can't be really called by a name. A name means a description. You're describing something. It's a certain description. So when you say that the God is Kale represents kindness. It's a description that Hashem is kind. When Hashem acts in a kind way and expresses His benevolence and His kindness, we call Hashem Kale. When Hashem is acting tough and strong, expressing His strength, we call Him Elokim. When Hashem is acting merciful and compassionate, we call Hashem. It's Hashem's name. So really, Hashem Himself is really, for Himself, is beyond definition, beyond description. Hashem is infinite and undefined. You can't limit Hashem to wise or kindness or compassion or strength. All these attributes are too limiting. So Hashem Himself is like infinite. And that's the name of Hashem. Yud-Kei Vav-Kei is Hashem's personal name. It's His core name, essential name, which means past, present, future. Hashem is beyond time, transcends space, is infinite, undefined. You can't really describe Hashem. But when Hashem expresses Himself through His attributes, when He emanates from Himself these attributes, and He expresses Himself through these attributes, then you call Him by a name. The analogy the Kabbalists give, you take water and you pour the water into colored cups, colored glasses. So the water itself is colorless. The water itself has no color. But when you look at the water, when it's contained in the glasses, suddenly I see purple water, I see red water, or light. When the light shines through colored glass, suddenly I see a blue light, and I see a purple light, and I see a red light. Of course, the light itself is light, is white. It's not colored. But when it's in the garment, when it's in the vessel, then it adopts the characteristic traits of the vessel. Suddenly you see a red light, a blue light. It's like the color white itself could adapt any color. You can add any color to white. So that's why that's the name Hashem. Hashem is like infinite, undefined, Hashem's personal name. But Hashem, when Hashem emanates from Himself, all these different characteristic traits, then Hashem is called by the name. That's why we find the name Hashem goes together with each of the other names. Hashem Elokim, Hashem Keil, Hashem Shakai, Hashem Tzevakot. Because the name of Hashem, that represents the light that encloses itself in these garments, in this vehicle. And therefore, when Hashem expresses Himself in a certain characteristic trait, in a certain way, in a certain attribute, we call Him by that name. That's why He says, according to my actions, that's how you call me, that's my name. Depending how I express myself, Hashem says, that's my name. And when you pray, it's important to know the name. Because if you're asking Hashem for mercy, for kindness, you have to address Hashem in His proper name. If you're going to address Hashem's name, Elokim, which represents strength and strictness, you're asking for kindness, you have to know, you're asking Hashem to enclose Himself, to express Himself through the attribute of kindness that Hashem emanates from Himself. So he says that's why they pray and they're not answered, because they don't know how to address Hashem. That's why the Kabbalah, when they explain the Siddur, they're explaining each part of the Siddur, which name of Hashem it's addressing, how Hashem is emanating, how Hashem is expressing Himself. Each prayer you have to know. Those who study Kabbalah and those who pray on a deeper level, a Kabbalistic level, know the names. It's like when you go to a king. If you need money, you have to speak to the Minister of Finance. You're not going to go to the Minister of Health and talk about money. You have to address Hashem expresses Him, the same infinite and undefined Hashem expresses Himself, encloses Himself through the 10 sfirot, through the different attributes that He emanates from Himself. So when you're requesting a specific request, you're asking Hashem to manifest Himself through the name Kael, through the name of kindness. So if you're going to pray the name Elokim, you're asking Hashem to manifest Himself in strength when you need the kindness. So it's like the light and the vessel. But Hashem and His light and Hashem and His vessels are one. It's Hashem emanates from within Himself all these attributes. And yes, it's very defined. It's kindness, and this is strength, the opposite. But Hashem emanates it from within Himself, and this is the way Hashem is expressing Himself. expressing himself in a limited way. Just like Hashem has the ability to express himself in an infinite way, Hashem is so unlimited that he's not limited to being infinite. He can also express himself in a very defined way, through the attribute of kindness, infinite kindness, through the attribute of mercy and compassion, through the attribute of strength. So that's the idea of the names of Hashem. And Hashem, that goes along with all the names. But these are all attributes that emanate from within Hashem himself. Tzevakos refers to created beings, all the sentient beings, angels that Hashem created, the whole multiplicity, the infinite angels, and Hashem created the whole universe, and Hashem rides over them. Hashem is the master of legions. These are his armies, but they're created beings. These are all in the world of creation. Hashem created heaven and earth. Not only did Hashem create the earth, the physical, Hashem created the spiritual, all these sentient beings and conscious beings and higher levels of consciousness and angels and the 10 different levels of angels and the higher worlds, the world of creation, the world of formation, the world of... These are all worlds, they're creation. Separate and apart from Hashem. As spiritual as they are, as sublime as they are, as egoless as they are, they're still a separate entity that's conscious and sentient and aware of Hashem. Yes, they could be like a fish swallowed up in the water, swallowed up in their source, but they're still a fish. They're separate, an entity, apart. So that's why in the 5 books of the Torah you don't find Tzevakah is a name of Hashem, because a name of Hashem is inseparable from Hashem. Yes, the name Kel represents the attribute of kindness, but it's Hashem's kindness, of the world of emanation, which is absolutely unified with Hashem. Hashem and his light and Hashem and the attributes are absolutely one. They're inseparable and one with Hashem himself. It's Hashem's ability to express himself even in a finite way. So it's all Hashem. Hashem is the light, Hashem is the vessel, Hashem is the unlimited, Hashem himself has the power to be limited. It's all Hashem. So it's the name of Hashem. You're not, when you say Kel, God forbid, it's not like a king that has different ministers. It's all Hashem. But you're addressing Hashem as expressing himself in this focused and concentrated in this attribute, or Hashem is revealing himself and manifesting himself as infinite self through this attribute of strength. Even though it's inexplicable to us, how can the infinite light, the infinite Hashem, express himself in these finite attributes? How could this vessel contain something that's infinite? That's the mystery, that's the faith. We don't understand how Hashem and his attributes are one and inseparable, as we learned at the end of the Shar Yichud V'Emunah, the second part of the Tanya, TanyaClass.com. But it's all part of Hashem, it's all Hashem. That's why it's a name, it's got Hashem's name. They're a holy name, you're not allowed to erase the name. It's holy, you're talking about Hashem. You're not talking about kindness, you're talking about Hashem's kindness. Hashem is kind. It becomes one with Hashem. It's like you say a person is wise. Yes, you can separate the person from wisdom. The person was born and then he acquired the wisdom. But once he acquires the wisdom, he's called a wise man. The wisdom becomes inseparable from the person. So once Hashem emanates from himself all these attributes, these defined attributes, kindness, strength, Hashem himself, it becomes the name of Hashem. You're talking about Hashem is the one who's kind. Hashem's kindness. They're inseparable. Hashem's wisdom. Infinite wisdom. Yes, it's a definition, but it's Hashem emanating from within himself, and Hashem becomes inseparable part of Hashem himself. How could the infinite, undefined Hashem become one and inseparable with something that's defined? That's a mystery. That's faith. We don't understand that. Just like we don't understand Hashem, we don't understand the unification of Hashem, how Hashem is unified. That even though he has 10 sfirot, 10 emanations in the world of emanation, but it's one with Hashem, inseparable, the world of unity. There's no separation. It's beyond creation. It's Hashem himself. So we call the name El Kel, Elokim, all the 7 names, they're Shakai, they're all the name of Hashem himself. It's Hashem himself. But the word Tzevakos, which represents the created beings, how could that be a name of Hashem? It's not a name of Hashem. That's already the world of creation. So all these soldiers, so to speak, these multitude of these hosts, they're the soldiers of Hashem, but they're soldiers. They're not Hashem himself. They're separate and apart. You can't call it a name of Hashem. So Tzevakos can't be a name of Hashem. In the Torah, Hashem is not called Tzevakos. The head of the army, the head of the master of legions, can't. Until Chana came along and did call Hashem Tzevakos. Hashem is the master of legions, this becomes his name. And from then on, Shmuel mentions it, and from then on we find it in the prophets, and especially so in the final prophets. Haggai, Zechariah, Malachi. Why is that? So Hasidus explains, because what was the purpose of the prophets? The prophet is not here to add to the Torah. Once the Torah is finished, you can't add to the Torah. You can add, you can't subtract. The greatest prophet in the world can't take away from the 613 mitzvot, can't reduce it to 612, and can't add one mitzvah. Let's make 614 mitzvah. There's only 613, no less, no more, forever. What's the role of the prophet? The role of the prophet is to strengthen the Jewish people, to encourage them to keep the Torah and the mitzvah. Why do they need this encouragement, this strength? Because the generation of Moshe, the peers of Moshe who received the Torah face to face, physically received the Torah, we were all present at Sinai, but our souls were present. But they were physically present and they experienced all the miracles and wonders. They were on the level of Moshe. They were like souls of the world of emanation. So they were able to receive the Torah on that level. But once the Jewish people entered into the land of Israel, and as they got further away from the Torah, they were souls from the world of creation, souls that are separate and apart. And therefore, they didn't receive the Torah on their level. The Torah was too lofty, too abstract for them. The Torah was like stuck in the world of emanation, the world of unity, talking to Jews who are on that level, who their souls are on the level of the world of emanation, the world of unity. There's no ego, there's no separation, there's no creation. Like someone once said, of that generation, from their sins the Torah was written. From our mitzvot, no one was writing a Torah. I mean, they were so plugged in, they were so connected. So they received the Torah. They were able to live by the Torah. Lower souls, who are disconnected, separate, apart, they couldn't connect to the Torah. So you needed the prophets to draw the Torah down into our world, into our reality. And that's what they did. They had the power to call Hashem Tzevakot. They had the power to draw down the unity of Hashem. The world of Torah, which comes from the world of emanation, they had the power to draw down that unity even into the world, into our world. A world which is separate and apart. And that we should also feel unified with Hashem. Because that's the power of Torah. The power of Torah is, but when we learn Torah, we do mitzvahs, we become like the body of Hashem. So we, in a way, become like a body. Hashem is our soul, we become a body. The body is completely unified with the soul. The body is egoless. The body is not apart and separate from the soul. You don't know where the soul ends and the body begins. They become inseparable. The body-mind become inseparable. That's the whole goal of the Torah. The whole goal of the Torah is to take the body and that every limb, 248 limbs because there are 248 mitzvot, 365 veins because there are 365 prohibitions, every vein, every bone, and every fiber, and every our being, and every bone in our body, every organ we become in our entirety, we become like the body of Hashem. Hashem wants us to do something and we do it, every part of us. So the whole point is to unify even the body which is not the world of emanation. That we should become unified with Hashem like the body of Hashem. So like the world of emanation, just like the world of emanation. Hashem and the light, Hashem and the attributes, Hashem and the vessel are one and the same and inseparable. So the goal of the Torah, the mitzvot is that our body should also become unified with Hashem. Prophets had that ability. When Hashem spoke through the mouth of the prophet, through the vision and the mind and the hearts and the words of the prophets, and the prophets rebuked the Jewish people and encouraged them to serve Hashem and to come close to Hashem, they draw down godliness even into the world of separation where you need rebuke, a world in which it feels apart and separate from Hashem, and to unify that world with Hashem. So they brought the Torah down from the world of emanation, brought it down into the world of creation, the world of formation, the world of action. And that's what it means, Hashem Tzevakot, that we become like Hashem's legion. We become, and Hashem is able to be unified even with the legions, just like He's unified. On the level of Atzilus, He's unified with His own attributes that He emanates from within Himself, which is His own ability to express Himself and to concentrate Himself in a very defined and limited way. So too, in the prophets, we reached even a higher level, that we're able to draw Hashem down even lower. Meaning we had to reach even higher. To be able to draw Hashem down even lower, we reached even higher to draw Hashem's infinite self, even into the low world, the lowly worlds where you have to rebuke, in the world where we feel separate and apart, in a world where we have a multitude. But instead of being a multitude that's separate from Hashem, it becomes a multitude and a host and an army of Hashem, that Hashem becomes unified with us, so much so that even our body becomes unified with Hashem, inseparable and apart from Hashem. So we can call it Hashem's name. It is Hashem's name, because it becomes one with Hashem, inseparable from Hashem. Just like the attribute is inseparable from Hashem. And we say Kel, we're referring to Hashem. God forbid, we're not 7 names, not the 7 gods. There's only one God, Hashem Echad. But it becomes a name of Hashem, an expression of Hashem. It's absolutely unified with Hashem. So too, we say Hashem Tzevakot, it's that this becomes a name of Hashem. They become inseparable and a part of Hashem. And the word Tzevakot is army. When do you need an army? Army means that there's a war, there's a battle, meaning that there's an opposition, there's a conflict, there's an enemy. In the world of unification, the world of Atzilus, the world of emanation, there's no battle, there's no enemy. You can't call Hashem Tzevakot. Who are you fighting? It's the world of unity. All there is Hashem. Even the two opposite attributes of kindness and strength, in the world of emanation, they're absolutely one with Hashem. There's no separation. It's only in the world of creation, now you have the angel of Michal is like water, and the angel of Gabriel is like fire. Now they become opposites. Now suddenly these two attributes are separate opposites, fire and water, and you have to bring them together. Hashem brings peace, and through peace He brings them together, harmonizes them. So the world tzava is when Hashem does battle, when there's an enemy, and you have to defeat the enemy. Then Hashem is called Tzevakot. So it's only in the later generations, not in the 5 books of Moshe. The 5 books of Moshe, they lived a sheltered existence. They were in the desert. There was no enemy really. You didn't need to fight. You didn't need the attribute of tzedakah, the attribute of winning, of defeating the enemy, of winning. There was no fight. There was no conflict. It's only after they entered into the promised land, and after then there's enemies and there's conflict, and then Hashem becomes the warrior. Hashem becomes Hashem Tzevakot. There's an enemy that has to be defeated, and we see that winning, that competitiveness, the drive, the ambition to win, to be number one and to win, is like the deepest drive within a person. It trumps over everything. We see that a person will do anything to win. You're ready to lay everything on the line to win. A king, when he goes into battle, he's ready to lay everything on the line just to win. He'll open up the hidden treasures that his ancestors gathered over generations. He'll spend all of his wealth. He'll sacrifice his own life. He'll go to the front to lead, as long as he wins. Winning touches such a deep place within us, this competitive spirit. To be number one and to win and to triumph. When there's a race and there's competition, that's the power behind capitalism. Why capitalism is so successful and so powerful versus the failures of socialism and communism. When you harness that competitive spirit, that when there's a competition, let the best person win, and the drive to win, to be number one, to be the best company, and to be the most successful, and to be you use resources, it taps into resources that you yourself never even knew that you had. You're ready to win, and it means so much to you, and it's such a powerful drive, it's such a powerful force. A king is ready to bankrupt himself, a king is ready to sacrifice his life, everything, just to win. It's not only whatever he's going to win, the land, the money, it's much deeper than that. It's just to win. To win is so important, to be number one is so important. Everything that happens in this world is just a symptom of what's happening above. Everything in this world is created from Hashem. So, meaning in Hashem himself. Tzevakot, the name Tzevakot, which represents the attribute of netzach, the attribute of competitiveness and to win, to overcome the enemy. And that godliness should triumph. And that truth should triumph. And goodness should triumph. And Torah and Yiddishkeit should triumph. Means so much, comes from such a deep place, that it taps into the deepest place within Hashem, so to speak. And Hashem, in order to win, Hashem reveals and opens up all of his treasures. And you access the deepest levels. And that's why only today, in our generation, the last few hundred years, Hashem opened up all the treasures. The Hasidic teachings, the deepest depth of Torah, the wellsprings of Torah, the treasures that have been hidden away and stored for thousands of years, generation to generation. He revealed everything, exposed everything, handed over to us, the soldiers, handed over all these treasures. As long as we win, we should be able to triumph and overcome evil and darkness and all the negativity and the confusion and the chaos and the nonsense that's all around us. That Yiddishkeit and truth should win. So Hashem is ready to do everything. So this is what the name Tzevakot represents. The name Tzevakot reaches in such a high place that it's able to reach even in the world of Bria, even the world of creation, that also becomes a name of Hashem. That you see the unity of Hashem. Hashem becomes unified and we all become his soldiers, his hosts. And Hashem becomes unified and inseparable with us. So the same level of unity that's achieved in the world of emanation now, through the prophets, through the revelation of the name Tzevakot, we're able to draw down this unity and reveal this level of unity even in our world, in our fragmented, conflicted world. We're able to triumph and we're able to draw down and bring down the infinite light of Hashem and to unify our world with Hashem. And even our bodies become one, and we become like a body to Hashem. We become inseparable from Hashem, and therefore becomes Hashem's name. We become one with Hashem. Hashem Tzevakot. And that's what we're saying, that Hashem Tzevakot. This name is Imanu, is with us. And this is Miskav Lanu. This is our strength, our stronghold. And Yaakov, the God of Yaakov, Selah forever. That Hashem is our stronghold. This is what gives us courage. That even though we're in a world and we need prayer and there are problems and there are difficulties and there are challenges, but we call out to the name of Tzevakot. Hashem is with us. The Lord of hosts, the Lord of legions, the Master of legions is with us. And we are unified with Hashem, and therefore we're confident Hashem will be our stronghold, protect us and shield us forever.